Hello there and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the John Henry Soto Show. My name is John Henry Soto, and as always, I'm here with my partner in crime, George Batista, my cousin. We played music together. We've did these bunch of these shows together for now 3 years that we've been doing this, different variations of shows. And we are here now live. I'm actually in Florida. I'm in Clearwater, Florida at the moment. George just got back from vacation, right? I think you were at
I was in
in
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Yeah, not too far enough because I couldn't go see you, but and you just came back. So we thought I'm out here on a vacation with my family. He just came back from vacation, and we are so smart guys. We thought, why don't we do a show on vacations and vacationing and what does it mean? Because it does have. I get sad sometimes on vacation conversations with people
Right.
because in my mind I'm thinking, God, they only have that little block of time, and like they don't have and that kind of sometimes makes me sad. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to get probably a little deep in the conversation. You know how George and I roll with this, and I have these headsets on. They're really bothering me, but it's what I got. George said I look like I'm on a pit of a race. What is it? A pit crew?
Yeah, the NASCAR. Yeah, pit crew.
NASCAR. Well, I thought you. No, I'm not going to go into that. So we are on our fourth episode, I think now, the John Henry Soto Show officially. Prior to that, we had about 17 different shows. George and I.
It feels like it.
Now we had two other the same show. We interviewed a lot of people, and we did a lot of the same conversations, but with sometimes a little bit of a different uh, care factor, I think.
Right.
We started doing Star Trek. George and I are Star Trek freaks. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I'm just giving you this information just so you can know a little bit about what it is that we do. We started with Star Trek. George called me up one day, and now I had been doing a show. Prior to that, I had interviewed. I had done a couple hundred shows already with interviewing like different people that I know, mostly artists and business people, and I had a great time doing that. And then he said one day, we should do a show together, because George and I grew up together. We also have the same kind of ridiculously silly humor, like things that makes us laugh. Probably our wives look at each other and are like, why are they
Yes.
laughing?
100%.
What is wrong with them? And
100%.
of course, George and I are on the floor laughing. But he said, why don't we just do a show together? And I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. So what do we do? So we talked about it and we decided, let's just do something that we know about. We know about Star Trek and something comfortable that we can just kind of dive into and it'd be easy. And we did 15 shows, but every show, for some reason, went into life things. Because Star Trek, if you want to get really geeky about it, Star Trek is very social. It has a lot to do with this social construct of whatever the time period was. And it has a lot to do with what's currently happening today. If you look at some of these episodes, they're very relevant.
Yeah.
So we would talk about these shows, and then we would talk about applying that to our lives and applying that in the world. And then we thought, well, let's try to come up with another angle on this. So then we transitioned to a show called Counterparts, and we did Counterparts. And Counterparts, we did a lot of shows with that. But the word counterparts for some reason didn't really, which it means something that's kind of similar, but distinct, but also not. But
Right.
it's also like can be similar. So we thought conversations can be similar to different things, and that worked out for a little while. But I mean, I did meet a lot of people that were like, it doesn't stick with them. They know that John Henry Soto does the show, but they don't know what the name of it is. They don't, so George and my business partner in Nashville, Brian Pierce, both have mentioned that, John Henry Soto. Oh, actually, I forgot to do one thing here. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Now we're live over there.
You have to press record.
Let's see. So Brian and George both mentioned that a lot of people not recognize like I'm famous, but they know more of my stuff than anything else. So if it's John Henry Soto, they know John Henry JHS or something like that. So we talked about it. George has no ego. George and I have known each other. Like I said, we were kids. I've known George since he was shorter than me. He's 6'1" now, and I'm not. And so I've known him a very long time. And and Brian was very insistent as well. So we said, okay, so let's try this out. And it really has changed things. It really has. The numbers have picked up way more than I ever thought possible.
Yeah.
And the conversations are slightly different because I feel a little bit more responsibility on having a viewpoint and talking to George about certain things and being a little bit more, I guess, more honest. Not that I was lying before, but I was kind of doing a show with someone. And we had a topic, and it wasn't about me and stuff. And it's very difficult when you're in this kind of industry to say, well, I'm going to make the show and call it my name. But because I had enough support and encouragement, it made it a lot easier to make that switch. So here we are. One of the great, anyway, George, what turn it over to you.
No, just I mean, I'm glad you did it, as always, right? As I said, I'm glad we're going in this direction. I think it frees you up. People say cool, and I
Yes.
completely agree. It is cool, and it frees you up to do a lot of things.
Yep.
Oh, Sean.
Yep. Sean.
Yeah.
Sean's our mascot.
Yeah.
We love Sean.
We should like get him like a mascot uniform and just like, have him like come across the screen or something, What do you think about that, Sean?
Maybe I'll get like a little face of Sean, and then every once in a while just pop it in there. Sean says, love you. Love you too, Sean.
You're the best,
Awesome
man.
guy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think, and it's also kind of and it's a little dangerous thing, as I said, but it's a peek into the mind of John Henry Soto. And which I've been in there many times in my life, and let me tell you, it's a scary place. But it is very interesting. It's like surfing.
Simon, appreciate it.
Growth has no ego.
That's
There you
right.
go. That's it.
Right,
It's not about egos here. It's not about that at all. It's about spreading love, spreading information, education, community. It's all that stuff. That's what it's about.
It's true. And, for me, it's like if I can get if I can get enough, my strength has always been bringing people together, whether it's a film, the bands that you and I have been in have always been, you were always there, but it was kind of like you and me kind of like deciding we were going to do this, and a lot of different things. So if I could just continue to do that and bring artists together and people in business and different opinion leaders to bring viewpoints that can move the needle forward for society and for humanity, for me that's my life. It's like that's what I want to do with my life, is to do that. So I think there you have it, a little rundown of the John Henry Soto. It's about 10-minute little rants that I do at the beginning of the show, where I talk about the show and what to expect. Eventually, I won't have to do that because then people will know what the show is about. But for right now, that's what we do here. So let me see. I'm still having flashbacks from the time in John's mind. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on up there, and some of it is frightening, but it's all with love.
Yes,
that's how I communicate sometimes. So, all right, we don't have any sponsors on this particular show right now. We are going to.
Woolite.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I just threw that out there.
Yeah. Pringles. Like something that we would never eat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the John
Brought to
Henry
you
Soto Show is brought to you by Budweiser and McDonald's.
by KFC.
To be like, wait a minute. So George
Zoloft.
is, yeah, and George is a wellness coach. For those that don't know, he has his own show called Wellness Talk with George Batista, and he gives incredible information in there about nutrition and health. He's not a doctor, to say that, because there are certain people that get very, very upset. Their panties go, and they get pissed off when you say that. He's not a doctor. He knows more. No, no, he's not a doctor, but he has a lot of
Sometimes
information
yes.
that can help.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
99% of the
Those of
time.
you who are interested in that, go to georgebatista.com. You can check out the show there.
That's right. And that's interesting. Did he switch over? Oh, it's talking about services.
Mockingbird Test 1. All right. So John has
There you
changed
go.
his name now.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so sorry, folks. There's a little technical issue here.
Technical difficulties.
That's what happens with the live show.
We haven't
That's awesome.
we haven't done
Yeah,
remote
right.
stuff in a while.
Yeah, and
Long
also
time.
I'm on a laptop, and you know the little pad. I'm used to my mouse,
Right.
but it keeps doing freaky things. All right. So today we're gonna talk about vacationing and going to places that you don't belong and staying there for a little while and then leaving, which technically that is what people do.
Well, there you go,
Right.
folks. That's it right there.
Thank you for tuning in. We will see you all next week.
You don't belong there and get out.
Where I will talk about next week supermarket. A place you go to when you don't have food and need it, and you buy it and you bring it home. I don't even have to do that show anymore. I needed 2 shows in one. Well, I mentioned earlier about feeling sad about vacations sometimes, right? And I think I want to actually talk a little bit about that, because I think it's not that, I work, I work remotely. So, I have I do a lot of digital, a lot of social media content, a lot of editing, digital marketing, which I'm getting heavily more into right now. But that's my job. And so I can work remotely. I'm working tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I'm here in Clearwater, Florida. So, but sometimes I feel that the trappings, and I don't know how you feel about this, George, is that, it doesn't feel right that we are allowed to go away to a place that makes us feel happy and then be forced to come back, and then confront whatever it is that we're confronting. And the 2 weeks, you have a 2-week vacation and you get this kind of thing. It's like 2 weeks. It's like, who came up with that number? And that's an American thing too. Like there's some
True.
countries where you go away, they'll take a month off.
Yeah, true.
They also have shorter work weeks. Now granted, United States is the superpower that we are, probably because we're obsessive about work and production, and producing stuff. But at the same time, what are we sacrificing, in the long run to do that, to be able to get those 2 weeks off, and get that, and wish for Friday, and God, I hate Monday mornings and that whole lifestyle, So that's kind of when I say I feel sad about it sometimes, it's like I wish that everyone could have the ability to say, I want to go to Paris for the summer, and go. And doesn't mean they're not productive. You take your work with you. I mean, this is happening a lot more now, especially since the incidents the last few years that have occurred in the media. I don't know if y'all saw it, but it was a big thing. And so during that whole time, a lot of people were home. A lot of people started going on Google, started researching different ways of making money, because some of them lost their jobs, or some of them were laid off, or some of them, had to make tough decisions, or their hours were cut, whatever the case may be. They went online and they researched stuff, and they realized there are a lot of opportunities out there to make money online,
Right.
working from home.
Right.
I work from home now for a company, and I do all their, the media and tech manager. So I do all their technology stuff, all their editing for any videos that they have. Um, and that to me is awesome. You know what I mean? And it's like, I can be at home, work, I can go out if I gotta go get something, if I gotta go run an errand, I go run an errand, it's a wonderful opportunity, but this is part of this. So that's why I say that it kind of makes me feel a little bit sad. So it's not like I have sympathy, but I just wish there was more opportunities out there.
But isn't the point of, well, one of the points of the vacation, so as it is, phrased, isn't it the point of to kind of unplug and decompress from that? Even if you love
Well,
your work, right? Let's say I want to say you love your work. Because I mean, you're in media, and that's what you love media. You've been in media for a long time, even without what you're doing now. You're just doing it on a bigger scale, right? But I would think that you love what you do as far as work, right?
right.
So wouldn't it be better? Isn't the point of it, like, let's say if you go to Paris, to cut that cord for that little while, to not have to be on there versus taking your work with you? Yes, you can still do that if you're remote, but now you're still stuck in that. Let's say you're working 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and then you
Right.
have to go out. You know what I mean? Isn't the point to get away
Yeah,
from it?
but right. 2 points I'll make. The first one is that the word, vacation is to vacate,
Right.
right? It's to
Right.
leave, it's to get out of something. So immediately you're already putting the the uh the tone of having to try to get out of something to try to go enjoy something, right? You're vacating your present position to go to a beach, or to
Right.
go to wherever you go, right?
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, you mentioned something else. What was it? Say a little bit about the end thing, because I forgot.
Uh, I said about isn't it the whole point is to unplug from what you're doing, even if you love your
Oh,
job.
I got it now. So you said let's say you work from, or it was nine to
9 to
five or
5,
something,
8 to 4, whatever it is.
right? That those hours are not, those are arbitrary. Why who put those hours there? Think of it honestly, George. Honestly, with all the jobs that you and I have had, did it take 8 hours to do any of them?
Absolutely not.
It honestly, most companies, you can do a lot of the work within 2 hours. If it was a busy day, within 2 hours to 3 hours, a lot of the emails, a lot of the communications, a lot of the planning, a lot of the, any meetings that you need to have, whether that's department or overall, can be done within a 2 to 3 hour period.
True.
And then you should be done for the day. This is what's happening in like certain parts right now, where they're cutting down to a 4-day work week, right?
Right.
Some places are going to a 7-day work week. So I don't know what they're doing, but I think they're doing 7 days but shorter hours. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know how that's going to work. But my point on that is that, we've been, since Henry Ford started the 9 to 5 with the 1 hour break in the middle, that system, it's been adopted by all the other companies
Right.
as the way it's supposed to be, and but one thing that I know for a fact is that, like, millionaires and billionaires, which I've had conversations with both,
Right.
and they do not look at their days as a 9 to 5.
Well, of
Never do.
course. Of course.
They are up at 6 a.m., right? And they may work till 9, and then they're going to go do something. They're going to go play
Right.
golf, or they're going to go look at a property if they're in real estate, or they're going to go do, spend some time with the family,
Right.
within that structure. Yes, there is a certain amount of discipline that you need to have when you have that capacity of life. where you have to say, okay, I'm going to put the phone down and I'm going to really focus on the time that I'm spending with my kids.
Right.
That to me is something that's a personal thing. That's a personal development. That's someone that needs to actually look in themselves and find out, you can't really do anything about that. But you can actually you get most of your work done before noon. You can 100%. And we've been conditioned to think that you need that and the 2 week vacation. This is changing, by the way. Who's changing a lot of this right now? Gamers,
Yes.
kids.
Yeah. Well, podcasters too.
Podcasters.
Yeah.
Digital marketers that are out there selling books and selling courses and selling, we were talking about that before we went on. The viewpoint is changing. So like my son will watch these kids, playing these video games and stuff. And at the beginning I was thinking like, God, can you imagine wasting all your life in front of a computer? And then I looked at it one day and I stopped for a second and I looked at it completely. Let me look at this objectively. Let me not look at this with any kind of pretense or anything I looked at it and I was like, there was editing involved. I see old jump cuts. There was humor, their own humor. They're in that world that they think it's funny. There was knowledge of the game, knowledge of technology, knowledge of the video quality because the lighting is really good.
Right.
The cameras are really good.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, holy crap, you know what? These guys are doing something that's never been done before. This is why, to me, it looked weird.
Right.
But these guys also, by the way, are making, you look at their videos and their videos will have like 30 million views, 20 million views, and so they're making millions of dollars, these guys, sitting at home playing video games, doing what they love to do.
Right.
But you see, that's the thing, a lot of times we have to find what we love to do, right? And then, do that for the rest of your life and you'll never work a day, whatever the quote is. But that's part of the thing, So like Chris said, if you can do 8 hours of work in 2 hours, then you need more work. See, I don't want to work for Chris. Now, Chris seems like a really nice guy, but there's no way in hell I'm working for Chris. But yeah, and that's a great point that he's making, because I think this is what happens when a lot of these companies. You saw the Boeing guy that was being interrogated, basically. Yeah. He's got, his people got a 1% increase in the last 8 years.
Right.
He got a 46% increase just last year. He's making $33 million. Right. So he thinks, and in his statement, he was kind of saying that the employees are not doing what they want to do. So this is like perfect example of like Chris Columbus here, where he says, oh well, we gave them this time and they got to do this work, but they just got to work more. Right. They got to work more. Well, they got to work more, but we're going to pay them 1% more, throughout 8 years, but they got to work more. So he was blaming his crew, his staff,
right?
The company basically for the downfall of Boeing and for what they're trying to recover from right now. So that to me is, it's a good point, that you're going to run into that, and that's the mentality that people have now. When I say work for 2 hours, I don't mean stop production. I'm talking about if you have a job that you're responsible for someone. I put in 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours a week on my stuff that I love to do.
Yeah. I
don't consider it work.
Right.
I write. I have a new film that I just finished writing. I cast it. I'm getting ready to shoot when I go back to Nashville. That's, to me, that's my work. Editing some other stuff that I have, some films that I've had in the can that I'm trying to get out the door. So that to me is my work. But yeah, I'll put in 60 hours. But I'm talking about if you're out there and you're working for someone, I bet that you can get most of that work done for 2 hours in 2 hours, especially if it's stuff that you've been doing for a very, very long time. You just got to be disciplined and do it. Some people, have you noticed this? Have you ever seen people try to stretch out their work throughout the day?
Yes.
Try to stretch it out.
Yes.
Like I gotta send that email, but I'm gonna do that after lunch.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like an
Yes.
email,
Yes.
it's, and that's what people do,
Yeah.
flying around.
Well, it's interesting because, first of all, when you look at the workforce is changing with the new generations that is coming in. Absolutely 100%. Okay. One of the things you're seeing, because again, going back to your concept of like 2 hours versus 8 hours and that type of stuff, part of the problem is that the workers now are coming in with their social media, their phones, their distractions, all that type of stuff. That is also taking away from work.
That's
Okay.
true.
You see the 20-year-olds sitting there on TikTok, doing all that stuff. Okay. And constantly answering their texts in the middle of work, right? Where 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was working in those offices in New York City and stuff, we didn't have that. Okay. You
Right.
literally just worked. So that's one, that's being changed just in general. So, they're not, I would dare to say that these younger folks, because of the distractions, that whole thing is changing. Now you're also talking about the difference between owning a business, right, versus being an employee, right? Being an employee, we know since we know that we've been trained to be employees, right? That system has been around for a long time, right? We're going to give you this many sick days. We're going to give you this many vacation days. We're going to let you go to the restroom here. We're going to, and this is what you got to, then you have to request this, and then you can't do this. We've all been trained to do that. That's, and unfortunately, the way the system exists, even though I agree with what you're saying, the way the system is laid out, if you're working for somebody, you're going to be under that umbrella. Unless you have an amazing boss who decides you can take off whenever you like,
Right.
Now there are bosses out there who are doing stuff like that, but it's very few and far between. But the average person is going to work for a person who goes by the handbook and says, you got 2 weeks here and you got 7 days there and you got all this. And that's what it is. And then because because we've been trained since we're kids from schooling on to be good little workers, we've just followed that thing. I mean, we're not even trained to start a business, but we know that. We've talked about this, right?
Right.
So the business owner is going to be different. Now, what's interesting, one thing you said there, the business owner, a lot of these business owners will work way harder than their employees because they're running a business, right? They're on 7 days a week.
Yeah, you can never expect employee to work as hard as the owner.
Correct.
Like, some owners lose their businesses because they think that their employees should work just as hard, but they're not as invested. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so in a sense, in a perfect world, yeah, absolutely 100%. But unfortunately, that's not the case. With a lot of jobs now, because of the way it's structured. People look at that vacation, as they're out to get away because that's all they have. Right.
Right. And that's, I guess, where I feel a little bit of sadness.
Right.
That's where a little bit of sadness comes in. Like, for instance, like if I work for Chris Columbus here and, I'm sure he gives 2 weeks off, minimum, and you have to work there for 10 years to get like a third week or something. And some of these companies, their attitude towards the young people that come in, young people every generation hates the younger generation, right? I mean, it's just, it's like, okay, well, these millennials with their phones and that's just what they currently have. That's what's their world. My kids don't know a world without cell phones and without tablets and the internet. They don't know what that's like. You and I do. So they're growing up, they're having a completely different experience to enter into the work world. AI is coming in right now, and by 2030, it's estimated that it may replace 300 million full-time jobs in America.
Right.
Very simple. I'm seeing it already.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it already being replaced. So I'd say learn a tremendous amount about this digital world and working for yourself, or at least working with a company, like you said, that does not that allows you to actually be an individual
Right.
and allows you to be productive. Now, in the hiring process, this is something that now the hiring managers and the hiring bosses and the entrepreneurs, people who own businesses, they now have to actually have a different set of guidelines to bring people into their business, because they can't sit down there and read. And you know this from HR, they can now sit and read the checkpoint. I'm going to ask these 20 questions, and these
Right.
20 questions are going to give me a good idea of who this person is.
Right.
You know, that doesn't fly anymore, because you may have a brilliant person on your mind, on your hands, but in your mind, you're thinking, oh, well, he's really into technology.
Right.
And that means he's going to be on his computer all day. Or somebody who's smart, you know what, he's really into technology. I wonder how I can use him to help us with our website, maybe SEO it and do a little bit more digital, marketing on our website.
Right.
And that's what he has to look at. I know you applied for this job, but I saw that you do a lot of computer work too. Is that something that you'd be interested? You have the hiring people have to now look at, especially the owners of companies, they have to shift the way they're doing things, and then the vacations don't matter. You see, that's the thing that what this would do. If someone is working a few hours a day and getting paid a regular salary, or at least a competitive salary, right? And they're working a couple of hours a day, but they're on call, they answer their emails when stuff is coming, during this part of the day, but they're at the beach, the phone rings, oh, okay, yeah, I'll send that email over right now, and they just do their email, they send it off. It's a different world. So it's not, the idea that we have to march into a cubicle and sit and do that's going away very fast. You want to know how fast? You go to Manhattan and go look at some of these huge giant buildings and look at these empty floors.
Right.
They're not talking about that.
Right.
They're not talking about that. But there are thousands of empty floors in these big giant buildings that they are just sealed up because nobody's there, because everyone's home, or because it's not needed and the job has been replaced either with AI, or it's been, it's like if you're a phone operator back in the 40s, right?
Right.
So if you're doing the phone thing and, well, that's gone. If that was your job in the 40s, are you going to be working in the 60s? Probably not. In the 70s? No. You have to move in with the times, right? So all these companies that are, implementing, I think Apple does it, Google does it,
Yeah.
Facebook does it. Those are tech companies. It makes sense that they would be the ones that would do that. But what are the biggest companies? Google, Facebook,
those are the bigger
Apple,
companies. Yeah.
right, and Microsoft.
Right.
Those are the bigger companies. Why are they the bigger companies? Because they got people to do the job that and do it in a less amount of time. They don't need as many people. I think Elon Musk proved that when he laid off, I can't remember, it was like thousands and thousands of people from Twitter when he bought it, because he was saying you don't need that many people to run Twitter.
Right.
And people were like, you're crazy, you're going to collapse, it's going to collapse. And it didn't. It's grown. It's actually bigger now than it was before. And because you get people and you hire people specifically to do one job that they're going to be good at, and they're going to get out there and do that job. And you don't hire 10 people to half-ass little pieces of things here and there, and to make the motions, and to do a couple of ads here and a couple of ads there. You just streamline it. You give it to one person that's going to really be productive, pay them well, and then give them some freedom. And if they burn you, well, you chose wrong. You get rid of them and you start over again, just like regular jobs. That's what's been going on. I've hired many people when I was working in the fitness industry in New York. You hire them and you think, wow, this person right here is awesome. And they are awesome, but they're not meant to work there. They just didn't do a good job, and I had to let them go. And so I haven't fired a lot of people, but I've done it 5 times in my life. And every time I've had to do it, it was most painful thing I've ever had to do, because if you bring them in, you drop the ball. I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball with one guy who I hired, and then I hired his wife, and they both stole money from my office, and they stole a bunch of computers, and they did a guy and his wife that I hired, and I learned my lesson.
Right.
It was like I hired emotionally instead of thinking of can they do the job?
Right.
They needed the job. So, what are we talking about today? So supermarkets. You buy the food. No,
but point of vacations.
Yeah, the vacation portion of it is a byproduct of people being taken advantage of for a very long time. Do you know how much money, if let's say a guy is making, I don't know, let's like $50,000 a year or whatever. How much money do you think that company needs to generate to pay that one person? Is that person? It's a fraction. It's a tiny
Yes,
little
correct.
fraction.
Correct.
It's a tiny little thing. So that means that they're putting out is the amount of work that person is doing is so
It's minuscule. Yes.
tiny
Yes.
to the amount of money that they actually have in the company,
Correct.
right? So the mindset of an employee needs to be, how can I be more valuable to the company where I can get a bigger share of the pie, have more responsibilities, but have less time that I have to actually be answering to people because I've become the responsible guy. People come to me, and I've taken over a chunk of the. And again, this also has to do with a lot of work ethic, and it has to do with
Correct.
what do you call it? People that work a lot, workaholics.
Yes.
Right. If somebody's a workaholic, well, that's another issue. We're not. Yeah.
Well, when you addressing those things, work ethic actually starts in the home. When you think about it, right? Because work ethic, coming out of your home, going into high school and college and stuff like that. Again, as a guy myself who's hired thousands of people as well, I have seen young people who I could say, like, I don't know who this person's parents were, but they did not teach this person a work ethic. I taught my daughter a work ethic from day one. You know what I'm saying? Even to doing dishes, for just a little allowance or whatever, where she's now actually right now she's working, she's closing the store. Okay. 17 years old, loves working. She loves it because, it gives her the money in her pocket. She could do her stuff, but she's got the ethic, and she's one of the best employees right now there.
She is.
Because, but that was an ethic that was instilled in her from young, and a lot of the kids coming out, and you're seeing this, a lot of the kids don't have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to just say you're right, and it's always in the home. It's always in the home. My daughter is 13 and she works babysitting, and she gets hired and parents come and literally drive to our house to pick her up, to take her to their house so she can actually watch their kids while they go out.
Right.
Like, she's that responsible, and that's something that you do instill in the home.
Yes.
A lot of the businesses are going to blame the educational system, and it is the educational system here. Obviously, it's troubled. We're not going to go into that. It's a whole other show, but I think that if you have the work ethic instilled in you at home, like the way you're talking about, it becomes much easier for when they do go to school, whatever the school may be. Hopefully, it's a decent school, that they will have that same work ethic in the schoolwork and get their diplomas and be able to graduate and be able to move on.
Right.
So I think that all ties into it. Do you have some statistics? I know we talked about vacation.
Well, I have general statistics on, vacation stuff, and which is very, very interesting. First of all, one statistic that I thought was just talking about, like, the Gen Zers and these these young folks and that type of thing, and social media. What I never really would have thought about, 9 out of 10 Gen Zers make travel decisions based on social media.
Huh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Now,
that makes sense in a way because they're always on social media.
They're always on. I mean, they get everything through social media.
So if somebody is vacationing in wherever in the Bronx or something, and people say, "Oh wow, you had a great time in the Bronx. I want to go and vacation in the Bronx," or if they're on the beach somewhere, where's that beach?
Right.
Where are you? And that so people they that makes sense that they do. Everything is influenced. This is why the world is changing, and some people don't want to change with it. And I'm afraid that it's going to create some type of a problem. Like right now, for instance, if I lose my position that I have with this company, tomorrow afternoon I'll be working for another company. Right. If I wanted to do that, you know what I mean? Or I could just continue working for myself.
Right.
But it's because I spent the time getting that knowledge. I didn't go to school for it, but I just did a lot of studies on it for the last 15 years on this whole development of this thing that's here now. So my mindset is especially on vacationing, is not, I don't have that same viewpoint that I did before, where I was lucky enough to have those 2 weeks.
Right.
Right. Now it's like, I don't want that. I'm in Florida now for a month.
Right.
And it's not saying that, oh, I don't have responsibilities or I don't have work. I do have a lot of responsibilities and I do have a lot of work, but there's something about not being so tied to an organization that just it's freedom. And I think at the end of the day, whether it's vacations, whether it's work, whatever we're talking about, it's all about freedom and having that ability to spend time doing the things that you love to do with the people that you love, and being able to give back to others and helping others and empowering others to do the same. That's really freedom. And I think that sometimes when I said I feel sad, is I think about it as freedom being lost in a sense. And that may not be popular to people. I'm not running for president, but I think that to me is something that if someone looks at it and they say, man, you know what? Even if they say John is right, God forbid, but if they say John is right, they can sit down, grab, I always talk about my book that I write in every day. They could sit down with a pad and a pen and start planning what they're going to do. Start planning it. You don't have to do it tomorrow. Give yourself a year. And every day when you come home, research something that you think might work for you. It may be an online business. It may be digital marketing. It may be it may be going into the arts, becoming an actor. If you're a musician and you've been, not playing, maybe it may be like, how can I just now go play music? How much money do I need to make? How much money do I have? How much money you know what I mean? And you sit down and you work it out. I believe that every single person listening to this and now and in the future can sit down and write their future and just say, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And you plan it out. You do a scale and you write every single day. You write something in there to get you one step closer. Always move the needle forward every single day. You move it forward. You read something, you do a webinar, something that's interesting to you. You can do there's so many things. I mean, even, we talked about this before the show, the MLMs, the multi-level marketing that people always oh,
no.
You know how many millions and millions of dollars people have made on multi-level marketing just because people are afraid to do some of the early steps, right? Because early on, George and I have been in that race, and it was not always fun, and it made some money, but people have made a load of money
Yeah.
doing that, because they branded themselves, they figured out a method, they were comfortable, they love the product. That's one of the main things. If you don't love the product, you're not going to make it in that type of a business, right? And now today, there's so many courses being made and being sold. All those things together, and people can sit down and they can figure it out. They can 100%. And another thing I always say is, like, if you want to run anything by me, George, I put myself out there. People message me all the time, and I'll set up a Zoom call like this, through StreamYard.
Mhm.
I send them my link and we have a conversation. Now, sometimes I'll be on there for like 2 hours talking to somebody, helping them with their plans, with what they want to do, So if anybody's out there, you can always email me. I think I'll put my email out here again. George, I can't find my email. Is this oh, here it is. There we go. Anyway, you can email me at john at jhstalentmanagement.com, and I will be more than happy, thrilled to sit with you and to help you find what it is that you want to do and to put a plan together. Let's make it happen.
And just a couple of points on those things. And one thing I'm going to add is that, vacations is one piece of it. Okay. The other thing that people get trapped into, and you hear this with the older folks, especially, is the whole retirement thing.
Right.
And I am, so sick of hearing people tell me I cannot wait to retire. It is one of the worst phrases and traps that you could ever even listen to. Okay. Because the point is that this is supposed to be the wall that you hit, the thing that you get. Like, you're going to get something and everything's going to be okay all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And, what I would say to the folks out there is, I'm not going to retire from anything. Okay.
I'm not retiring.
I'm not retiring from anything. I'm going to be moving on to other phases of my life. If I'm 80 years old, I still be doing these type of shows when I'm 80 years old. So, you know what I'm saying? Because when you have that mentality of retiring, you literally sit there, and I have seen it, people in my own family who have sat there and wasted away because they think this is it. This is all those years of work and sacrifice and this and that, where you sit there and it's all done, and I'm telling you, it's the worst thing I've ever heard. It's, and so I would say to the folks out there, like, and what John is saying is so true, have your plans, have your goals set. Okay. But look at it as an ongoing thing. Don't ever look at it, because what you're doing when you say I'm retiring is you're putting an ending to that. You're putting like this artificial ending to it. Like, okay, everything stops,
Yeah. And, you think about, like, we start work at, I don't know, let's say 18, you start your job, or let's just say 20, just to make it even. And you retire at 65. So what is that? 45 years, 40, 65. So 45 years.
Right.
So you have 45 years, average lifespan is, between 75 and 80, if you're lucky, right? If you're
right.
living, and not taking care of yourself. But you start thinking about, you had 18 years, let's say 20 years at the beginning of your life, and then 65, 75, and then you got maybe 15 years at the end, and then this chunk in the middle is really where life happens.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in the prime of my life. Right now, I'm doing things, and I'm older, you know what I mean? But this is the year, this is the time where I'm actually doing stuff. And the last 10 years, from 30s to 40s to 50s, I've done a crap load during that time. Living stuff, and some of it really, really hard, some of it fun, some of it not so fun. Lost family during that whole time, that time of your life, you need to really be more productive in the things that you love, because having that 20-year, 15-year at the end, statistically, right? The 20 years, it's the 20 years, right? That's not a stat, that's a fact. And then at the end, You may get 15 years. If you're lucky, you live to 85, so you get 20 years. Great. But that's what we're living for.
Yeah.
The 20 in the front, 20 at the end. It's like, so this is why, like, with vacations, and this conversation is always, it always, especially about vacations. I knew that it would go this way because it's something that, like I've said earlier when I started, it does make me a little sad sometimes to think about that.
Yeah.
Like I only have 2 weeks off, or some people become teachers because they get the summer off, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh, I get the summers off. Okay, great. That's better than not. Plus, it's being a school teacher is also an honorable job. You're giving back. You're helping kids. You're educating. It also has a lot to do with you get a lot of vacation days. You get the Thanksgivings. You get the Christmases. You get the Groundhog Day. You get all of the big days. 4th of July. So there's a lot of benefit in that type of position. So I can understand why people would go for that. But it's a really difficult conversation because there is no real solution. There's no like answer. Obviously you can say, well, go out and find I could say all the stuff that I've said, but really the bottom line is that per individual has to sit down and hit a wall of some sort, or experience something that is so devastating to them that they've decided they need to do something and they need a shift in their lives.
Right.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
These shows and all the thousands of motivational shows that are out there to help people kind of either get healthy with their, physical, mental, spiritual, whatever the help is, and fly, whatever the help is, doesn't mean anything if the individual doesn't sit down and realize, oh man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I want to do something different. What can I do?
Right.
Well, the solutions are out there, and if you need solutions, I have solutions. And if you need assistance with whatever it is that you want to work on, especially if it's in the arts, we can help you. If you have some physical stuff, George can always, ask you some questions. What do you eat for breakfast? Donuts and Coke. Okay, well, we're going to start there. And we're here to help, but that's part of the reason why I say I felt sad, is because I really do think that there's way more to life for individuals out there, and they can also impact the world better.
Yep.
Because when someone is happy, they're going to make people around them happy. And when people around them are happier, that spreads. Happiness spreads, goodwill, good cheer spreads. Just like hate spreads, but hate needs gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
And flames and fire, and they got to pour. Hate has to come from it doesn't come from within. Hate is spewed. People aren't born hating, maybe Hitler, but people aren't born hating. You know what I mean? Like something had to happen when they were young, and something fueled them.
Yes.
And then the media fuels even more, so they throw gasoline onto the little tiny spark of nothing. They throw gasoline and make it into a big giant thing. That's what hate is. But love and support comes from inside. We generate that. We are the actual generators of those emotions, and we have the power to be able to give that to someone. You can't give hate if the person doesn't want to accept it, but you can give love, and everyone wants to accept it.
Yeah.
So that to me is the only way that we can, stop vacations.
That it's funny that we were talking about France and stuff, that the United States and France are the polar opposites in vacation. Whereas the United States, the average is about 11 days. And in France is a month.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's true. Although they pay people I've never been to Paris. I will at some point, but they say it's a lot like New York, where they're a little tough.
Yeah, but they are. I've seen them I've seen a lot of information as far as them being generous in some of their work stuff, because even I think, if I remember correctly, I think their when
Maternity.
somebody goes on maternity leave, they get like they
Yeah,
can get
yeah,
like a freaking year or something. It's like
yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah,
a year of paid leave or
yeah, yeah.
something
And
like
I, and
that.
I think even men get some time
Yes,
off
yeah,
during
exactly,
that time as
exactly.
well. Yeah,
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 so in those cases, at least, they're up on that, which is kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. Well, what is a woman? Um, so sorry, you didn't catch that.
No, I missed that one. I was kind of low, so I didn't.
That what is a woman?
Oh my god, this is your
We're not
show, so you could say or do whatever you want.
here. I say crash and burn now.
The views
I
of
can't
John
get
Henry
canceled.
Soto are not necessarily the views of George Batista. I'm just saying.
Well, I tell you, being canceled doesn't mean anything to me.
Doesn't mean anything. Yeah, especially these
Like,
days. I mean,
yeah, these days it's like you can't even really be canceled anymore. I think that
no,
power went
it's like
away.
whack-a-mole. They just come back up.
Yeah, it's just like get away.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna wrap up. I gotta go pick up my family. They're at the beach. And but I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all very much. This is always fun, but I really want to really be there and really help. It's not just us coming here talking smack. George and I are really committed to wanting to help people, and it's really totally 100% serious. If you reach out to me, I will respond and we will chat and I will help any way that I can. And for now, I can. I know that my life is going to be a lot different in a year and in the future. But right now, I'm available and I'll always be available. But how much time I'll have, I don't know. But I'll always be available. So please reach out to me. I want to thank you all for tuning in, George. As always, a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'll see you. Thank you. I will see you all next week. I'll still be here in Clearwater, and we'll see you all next week. Take care. Love you all. And as always, peace.